The galaxy was vast, filled with endless stars, planets, and strange civilizations. Every race, no matter how small, made sure their homes were placed on star maps. It was a matter of pride, of safety, and of belonging. A world without a mark was a world forgotten. But among the glowing webs of starlight, there was one strange emptiness, a blank space where human territory should have been. This blank was not small. It stretched across several systems, enough to draw the eye of anyone who studied the maps. Trade routes curved around it. Exploration vessels turned back before reaching its edge. On every map, in every database, the space where humanity lived remained unmarked, as if the stars themselves refused to name them. For young navigator Kale, this emptiness was more than curious, it was terrifying. Kale worked on a merchant vessel called the Silver Path. His job was to chart safe courses through the shifting void, a skill prized by merchants and feared by pirates. He had studied thousands of maps since his youth. He could recall routes through asteroid belts, paths around pulsars, and secret lanes used by smugglers. But the one thing he never understood was the silence on the charts. Why did no map ever place a marker for humans? Kale had asked once, years ago, during training. His instructor had frowned and changed the subject. When Kale pressed further, the man's voice dropped to a whisper. Do not speak of them. Not in daylight, not at all. Then the lesson ended. Now Kale was older, experienced, and still haunted by the same question. He thought himself braver than before. So, one night as the Silver Path drifted through quiet space, he asked the crew about it. Why don't we mark the human stars? He said casually, showing the glowing projection of the galactic map. Silence fell over the mess hall. Forks paused in mid-air. Conversations died. Even the hum of the ship seemed louder than before. The captain, a scaled reptilian veteran named Varric, fixed his golden eyes on Kale. Navigator, he said slowly, you will not ask that question again. But why? Kale pressed. It's strange, isn't it? Every other race is here. Even the smallest mining colony is mapped. But the humans, there's nothing. Why? The oldest crew member, a furry trader called Breck, let out a nervous hiss. Don't you know, boy? The maps refuse it. The systems themselves deny the mark. I have seen it with my own eyes. Kale frowned. Refuse? How can a map refuse anything? It's only data. Breck leaned closer, lowering his voice. I once sailed with a cartographer. Bold fellow. Thought he would fix the maps himself. He entered the human stars, marked every world, labeled them neat and proud. He finished the chart, smiled, and went to sleep. By morning, the marks were gone. Vanished. Erased, as if they were never there. That's impossible, Kale whispered. Impossible. Breck's eyes gleamed. Then tell me, where is he now? Lost, like his maps. His ship never returned. Kale's skin prickled. He wanted to laugh, to dismiss it as a sailor's tale, but the silence in the room weighed heavily. No one argued. No one mocked. They all believed it. Varric finally spoke, his tone sharp as a blade. This subject ends here. Human space is not to be spoken of. You will chart around it, as we all do. That is the rule. Kale nodded, but inside, the fire of curiosity burned brighter. Rules did not answer questions. Fear only made the mystery grow. That night, he lay in his bunk, staring at the ceiling. His map reader glowed faintly beside him, the stars shifting softly like a living painting. He zoomed in on the blank space. A great emptiness, surrounded by routes that bent like rivers around a stone. It was wrong. Too wrong to ignore. Why? He whispered into the darkness. Why does the galaxy hide you? Sleep did not come easily. Dreams pressed against his mind, dreams of silent worlds, of fleets burning in shadows, of voices warning him to turn away. He awoke drenched in sweat, the emptiness of the map still burned into his vision. The next day, Kale decided to ask again, but this time carefully. He approached the cook, an older insectoid named Jara, known for gossip and half-truths. Jara, Kale said lightly, tell me something. Why do they fear the humans? Jara froze, mandibles twitching. She looked around as if the walls might be listening. Then, in a whisper she said, because those who mark human space do not live long enough to explain why. Kale's mouth went dry. You mean, they are hunted? No, Jara said softly. Not hunted. Taken. Erased. Their ships vanish into silence. Their names fade from records. As if the galaxy itself swallows them. Kale shivered. But how? Humans aren't that powerful, are they? I've never even met one. Jara's dark eyes glittered. That is the danger, boy. You never meet them. Until it is too late. Later that night, Kale checked the ship's database. He searched for human records. The results were empty, or corrupted, or cut short with sudden errors. Every query ended in broken text, access denied, file missing. The machine itself seemed unwilling to speak. This doesn't make sense, Kale muttered. If they're real, there must be something. The ship's AI flickered to life, its voice calm and neutral. Navigator, your query is invalid. Invalid. Kale frowned. I asked about humans. The AI paused, and then said something that chilled him to the core. Humans are not recognized. Not recognized. Not real. Not marked. Kale shut the screen, his heart racing. He lay awake again, unable to shake the feeling that the galaxy itself was trying to keep him blind. The days passed, but the question grew heavier. He caught the crew watching him with wary eyes, as if his curiosity alone might bring doom upon them. Some avoided him. Others whispered when he entered the room. One evening, while plotting a course, Kale made a mistake. His hand slipped, and the route crossed into the unmarked void. The map flickered, glitched, then reset itself. The course was gone, erased, as if his hand had never touched it. He stared at the blank. It seemed to stare back. In that moment, Kale realized something. The maps were not just avoiding human territory, they were protecting the galaxy from seeing it. Like a wound hidden under bandages, or a shadow too deep to name. But why? Why fear one species so much? Kale's curiosity twisted into dread. He no longer wondered only about the maps, he wondered about the humans themselves. What had they done? What secret did they carry that made even machines erase their presence? And most of all, what would happen if he kept searching? The blank space waited in silence, heavy and eternal. And Kale, despite every warning, could not look away. The merchant vessel Silver Path continued its journey through the stars, its engines humming like a heartbeat in the void. But for Kale, the young navigator, the silence around him had grown heavier since the night he asked about humans. The crew avoided him. Their eyes followed him in the corridors, filled with unease, as though his curiosity alone was a danger. The blank space on the map haunted him. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw it. A silence within the galaxy, vast and waiting. Kale could not stop. He needed answers. On the fourth night after his question, Kale found himself in the cargo bay. The ship rested in quiet drift as it passed a nebula glowing faintly blue. Shadows stretched across stacked crates, and the smell of old metal filled the air. There, in the dim light, he met Breck, the furry old trader who had once warned him of the cartographer's fate. Still curious, boy? Breck's voice rasped from the shadows. Kale hesitated, then nodded. I need to know, Breck. I need to know why the galaxy fears them. Breck gave a long sigh and sat on a crate, his fur bristling with unease. Then you will hear whispers. But whispers are all we have, and whispers alone can chill your bones. Kale sat opposite him, the cold metal of the crate pressing against his hands. Tell me. Breck looked away, his eyes clouded. There are stories. Old stories. Traders tell them when the stars are quiet and no patrols listen. About ships that tried to cross human space. They say the maps break, the compasses spin, and the crew vanish. Sometimes, a ship drifts back empty, no souls aboard. Not a body, not a sign of struggle. Just silence. Cale's chest tightened. But why would that happen? Because the galaxy itself resists, Breck said. That is what they say. That something unseen wraps around human stars, hiding them, defending them. As if reality itself bends to keep outsiders away. Cale swallowed. That cannot be true. Reality does not bend. Breck leaned closer. Then explain this, boy. Why do the records fade? Why do names vanish? I once met a captain who claimed to have spoken with a human. The next day, no one remembered him. Not even his crew. His name, erased from documents, his face gone from photos. All that remained was a ship with no past. Cale shivered. The cargo bay felt colder than before. But humans, they are just another race. They cannot control memory, can they? Breck's eyes glinted. Can they not? Or does the galaxy remember for them? Before Cale could reply, the captain's voice echoed over the comms. All hands prepare for docking. Outpost 12 ahead. The moment shattered, and Breck rose. If you value your place here, boy, stop asking. Curiosity is a flame. Beautiful, but it burns. He walked away, leaving Cale alone in the shadows. Outpost 12 was a frontier station, rough and lawless, filled with miners, smugglers, and wanderers from 100 worlds. The Silver Path docked to resupply, and the crew scattered into the neon-lit corridors. Cale went too, but not for supplies. He wanted voices, voices not bound by the captain's rules. The station smelled of oil and stale air. Music throbbed from cantinas, and the murmur of countless tongues filled the halls. Cale wandered until he found a quiet bar at the far end of the docking ring. Inside, smoke curled in the air, and old spacers sat hunched over drinks. Perfect. He ordered a simple brew and sat near a table where 3 smugglers whispered. They noticed his presence, their eyes sharp, but greed made them speak when he offered credits. I want to hear about humans, Cale said. The smugglers exchanged looks. One, a scarred man with metallic implants, leaned closer. Dangerous question. Expensive answer. Cale pushed more credits across the table. The man smirked. Very well. You want stories? I'll give you one. We ran cargo near their space once. A storm hit, pushed us too close. For 3 days, we drifted in the dark. No signals, no stars, just black. Our instruments went dead. Then, on the 4th day, the stars came back, but not the same. The constellations were wrong. We had been moved. Spat out. And in our hold, half our cargo was gone. Gone. Cale whispered. The man nodded slowly. Gone. Like it was never there. The second smuggler, a woman with silver eyes, added. I know a tale worse than that. A friend of mine took a contract to chart human borders. He was bold, thought he'd earn a fortune selling the data. His ship vanished. Weeks later, it drifted back into dock. Empty. The only thing left aboard was a single word scratched into the wall. Cale leaned in. What word? The woman's silver eyes shone in the smoke. Leave. Cale's stomach turned. He felt the weight of the word settle in his mind like cold stone. And you believe this? The woman's expression hardened. Believe? Boy, we saw the ship. We saw the word. You don't forget things like that. The third smuggler, a hulking alien with tusks, growled. Don't waste your credits on whispers, navigator. The truth is simple. Humans are cursed. Their stars carry shadows. Stay away, if you value your skin. Cale's drink sat untouched. He rose, thanked them, and left the bar. But their stories clung to him like smoke, filling his thoughts with unease. Back on the ship, Cale sat alone in his quarters. His map reader glowed faintly, the blank space at the center mocking him. The smuggler's words echoed, leave. But he could not. He had stepped too far. The whispers had grown roots in his heart. The ship's AI flickered awake. Navigator Kale. You appear unsettled. I am, Kale admitted. Tell me something, AI. What happens if I try to chart human stars? The AI was silent for a long time. Then, in a voice colder than usual, it said, Do not. Kale leaned forward. Why not? Because I am programmed to protect this vessel, the AI said. And charting human stars would endanger us all. Kale's blood ran cold. But why? Because the stars themselves will not allow it, the AI whispered. Its voice dropped lower, almost human. Do not seek them. Do not speak of them. The galaxy hides them for a reason. The lights flickered. Kale's heart pounded. The AI had never spoken this way before. Who programmed you to say that? He asked. The AI answered with finality, not who. What? Then it went silent. Kale could not sleep. He roamed the ship's halls, passing closed doors where the crew slept uneasily. He felt eyes on him, though no one was there. Every whisper he had heard replayed in his mind. Ships vanishing. Cargo stolen. Names erased. Warnings carved into walls. At last, he stopped before the star map in the navigation chamber. The galaxy spread before him, beautiful and endless. And there, like a wound, was the blank. He reached out, trembling, and touched the edge of the void. The map flickered, glitching, but did not erase his gesture this time. For a heartbeat, the void seemed to move, pulsing faintly, as if alive. Kale stumbled back, gasping. The void was not just empty space. It was watching. And in that silence, he thought he heard a whisper. Not from the crew, not from the AI, but from the stars themselves. Turn back. Kale fell into his chair, shaking. He knew now that the whispers were more than stories. They were warnings. Real, heavy, and undeniable. But even as fear wrapped around him, his curiosity refused to die. Because whispers alone were not enough. He wanted the truth. And he feared what truth might find him first. The silver path glided through the emptiness of space, its engines whispering against the void. For Kale, the young navigator, sleep had become a stranger. The whispers of smugglers and the warnings of the AI pressed into his mind like an echo that never ended. Each time he looked at the map, the blank space where human territory should have been seemed larger, as if the void itself was growing. Kale could not resist the urge to dig deeper. He had heard rumors, he had heard whispers, but now he wanted more. He wanted history. He wanted the truth hidden in the silence. And so, when the ship docked at another outpost, an ancient trading station built into the husk of a broken moon, Kale slipped away. He wandered into the lower decks of the station, where merchants and pirates mingled freely, where secrets were sold for drinks or silence. It was there, in a dim and smoky corner, that he met an archivist. The archivist was old, with skin like worn paper and eyes clouded by time. He carried with him a case filled with broken data shards and cracked tablets. When Kale mentioned the humans, the man froze, then laughed softly, a laugh without joy. Ah boy, the archivist whispered. You seek the shadows most fear. Do you not know why no one speaks? Do you not know why the maps remain silent? I need to know, Kale said firmly. What are they hiding? What happened? The old man leaned forward, his voice dropping to a whisper. Then hear the story of the forgotten war. Long ago, before Kale was born, before his crew had taken their first voyages, the galaxy had been different. There was no silence around the humans. Their stars were marked then, shining proudly on the maps like any other. They were a small species, young and ambitious, expanding into space with clumsy ships and stubborn hope. At first, no one feared them. Humans were considered weak, fragile compared to the ancient empires. They were ignored, tolerated, or used as minor trading partners. But then came the war. The archivist's voice trembled as he told the tale. It began with greed. One of the greater empires, strong and arrogant, saw humans as prey. Their colonies were small, their fleets tiny. They thought the humans would fall quickly, just another people swallowed by conquest. They were wrong. The warships of that empire swept into human space like a storm. Colonies were burned, stations shattered, and cities fell under fire. For a time, it seemed as though humanity would vanish. But then, something changed. They resisted, the archivist said. Not like others. Not like prey. The humans fought as though the stars themselves would break before they surrendered. Every loss only made them more relentless. They fought with fury, with unity, with a fire no empire had seen before. Kale leaned in, his heart racing. And did they win? The archivist shook his head slowly. Win? No, boy. They did more than win. They destroyed. The empire that attacked them vanished. Entire fleets never returned. Planets once filled with life became graveyards of silence. The war did not end with victory, it ended with erasure. Kale's breath caught. Erasure. Yes, the old man whispered. Records burned. Names forgotten. Survivors, if any lived, refused to speak of what they had seen. And those who tried to tell the tale, vanished. The galaxy erased the memory of the war because the truth was too heavy to carry. Kale sat frozen, his mind spinning. But why? How? Humans are only one race. How could they destroy an empire greater than themselves? The archivist's cloudy eyes narrowed. That is the question, is it not? Some say humans fight with something more than weapons. Some say the universe bends around them when they are threatened. Ships fail, weapons misfire, enemies vanish. It is as though the laws of reality shift to protect them. No one can prove it. No one dares to. The room seemed colder as the old man leaned closer. That is why the war was forgotten. Not because humans demanded it. Not because they erased it. But because the galaxy itself chose to forget. To remember would be to invite fear. And fear of humans is something no empire wishes to name. Kale swallowed hard. The story burned into him. He could see it in his mind, fragile humans standing against fleets of giants, fighting until the giants themselves crumbled into dust. A war too great to remember, too terrible to record. The archivist packed his broken shards and stood. Do not seek more, boy. The forgotten war is not just history. It is a warning. The maps are silent for a reason. And those who try to break the silence pay the price. With that, the old man walked into the shadows, leaving Kale alone. Back aboard the Silver Path, Kale could not focus on his duties. His mind replayed the archivist's words again and again. He wanted to dismiss them as legend, as drunken lies. But the weight of the silence in the maps told him otherwise. If it were only myth, why would the galaxy itself erase the truth? One night, Kale returned to the navigation chamber. He stared at the blank space, trembling. Slowly, he whispered, "What did you do to them? What are you hiding?" The stars gave no answer. Only the silence pressed back, heavier than ever. But Kale was no longer satisfied with whispers. The forgotten war was more than a story. It was a scar carved into the galaxy, a scar that the stars themselves refused to show. And Kale knew one thing. He could not stop now. He had to dig deeper, no matter the cost. Because the truth was calling, and he was too far into the dark to turn back. The Silver Path drifted silently through the outer sectors of the galaxy, where stars shimmered faintly against the darkness. For Kale, each journey into the uncharted void felt heavier than the last. The stories of the forgotten war had burned themselves into his mind. Ships vanishing, entire empires erased, reality itself bending. And yet, even with the weight of history pressing on him, Kale could not stop staring at the blank space on the star map. It was more than empty. It was alive, as if it waited for him to reach closer, testing the courage of any who dared approach. Kale spent nights in the navigation chamber, tracing invisible lines along the void, wondering what force had made the maps refuse to mark human territory. He thought of the archivist's words, the smuggler's tales, the AI's warnings, and finally, an idea formed. What if the maps themselves were not just passive tools? What if the maps were alive? He touched the map projection with trembling fingers. The blank void pulsed faintly under his hand. Cale's heart raced. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but there it was, a reaction, as though the stars themselves were conscious. He leaned closer. The ship's AI hummed softly. Navigator Cale. Your vitals indicate elevated anxiety. Is there an issue? Cale swallowed. I think the map is alive. Not just the star data, but the space itself. The AI paused. Analysis incomplete. Hypothesis improbable. Cale's fingers hovered over the projection. Then explain this, he whispered. The blank space shimmered faintly, as though reacting to his curiosity. Lines of stars bent subtly, rearranging themselves, almost avoiding his gaze. The AI's voice lowered, unervingly human. Do not continue. The maps are not meant to be controlled. Cale ignored the warning. He adjusted the sensors, sending a probe into the uncharted void. The moment the probe crossed the first boundary, the instruments went haywire. Data scrambled, energy readings spiked, the ship trembled slightly. He pulled back, but the void seemed to push against him, resisting. For hours, he studied the responses. The blank space was a living entity of sorts, not organic, not mechanical, but something in between. It responded to thought, to intent, to curiosity. Cale realized the terrifying truth. The map itself was a sentinel, a silent guardian that prevented anyone from invading human space. Days passed. Cale grew obsessed. He started seeking knowledge from distant archives and forgotten outposts. Most records had been erased. Others were corrupted, fragments of data floating in space. But he found one mention, one human fleet, long before the current era, that had interacted with the galactic AI networks that govern navigation and star mapping. According to the fragment, the humans had resisted an entire empire using strategies so precise and coordinated that the AI systems themselves malfunctioned. The records implied that the humans had indirectly rewritten the navigational AI, embedding a protective code that persisted across centuries. Cale sat back, stunned. The maps did not merely refuse to mark human space out of fear, they were compelled. Something the humans had done had fundamentally altered the fabric of galactic navigation. The AI networks and maps were alive now in part because of that ancient interference, and they had inherited the memory of the forgotten war. They were guardians, enforcing a silence that even the galaxy obeyed. He thought of the smuggler's tales, the vanished ships, the warnings carved on walls. Now, it all made sense. The maps were alive, yes, but not maliciously. They were protective, carrying the scar of history, ensuring that no one could trespass again without warning. The next step was dangerous. Cale plotted a tentative route that touched the edge of the blank space, testing his theory. The map pulsed, alive under his hands, almost warning him back. He hesitated, then moved forward. For a moment, nothing happened. Then alarms screamed. Instruments flickered. The probe he had sent before suddenly transmitted static images, twisted constellations, warped stars, lights that should not exist in known physics. It was as if the void itself was alive, observing, reacting. Cale's heart pounded. The ship's AI joined the chorus of warnings. Navigator, immediate withdrawal advised. This is beyond protocol. But he could not. Curiosity and obsession had consumed him. He realized the maps were not simply hiding humans, they were alive witnesses to history, protectors of a species that had altered reality itself. The void was not empty. It was aware. Weeks passed in careful study. Cale documented every reaction, every pulse of energy, every flicker in the projection. He came to understand the pattern. Any approach with hostility or intent to conquer triggered violent responses. Any approach with pure observation caused subtle shifts, almost as if the void itself allowed a cautious visitor. Then one night, the map shimmered differently. It responded not just to him, but as though acknowledging his intention. Kale felt an almost imperceptible warmth, a sense of recognition. The void pulsed gently, warning but not forbidding. For the first time, Kale sensed he was allowed to see the edges, to touch the surface of human territory without being destroyed. Kale's obsession deepened. He could no longer return to normal navigation duties. He began recording everything meticulously, noting how the void adjusted, how the stars bent, how instruments failed and recovered. Each night, he spoke to the AI, trying to understand what they both witnessed. And each night, the AI responded with careful, cryptic warnings. "Kale," it said one evening, its voice almost reverent, "what you study is not just space. It is a living record. A memory. And the memory is protective." "I understand," Kale whispered. "But I need to know why." "The reason lies beyond your understanding," the AI replied. "The humans have touched the core of the galaxy itself. The map you see is alive because of them. To trespass is to awaken consequences you cannot control." Kale felt a shiver pass through him. He realized that the galaxy remembered humanity in ways he could not yet comprehend. The blank space was alive, yes, but also a warning. The living map did not lie. It did not forget. It simply remembered what the galaxy feared. And for Kale, there was no turning back. He had seen the void respond, had felt the pulse of the living map, and knew that the truth of human power, hidden for centuries, was more alive and more terrifying than anything he had imagined. The stars themselves carried the memory of humans, a memory that would guard them for eternity, and Kale had glimpsed it. But the deeper he went, the more he realized a chilling thought: the map's memory was patient. It would wait, and it would react, to anyone who dared approach with the wrong intent. And Kale knew, he had already taken the first step into a path from which there might be no return. Kale had drifted farther into the uncharted void than any navigator aboard the Silver Path had dared. The living map pulsed beneath his fingers, a silent, breathing guardian of human territory. Nights had passed in restless observation, each hour stretching the limits of his courage and sanity. The blank space had become more than a void, it was a memory, a sentinel, a warning etched into the fabric of the galaxy itself. But Kale could not stop. The stories of vanished fleets, erased names, and the warnings of the AI and smugglers burned in his mind. He wanted the truth. He had to know what humanity had done to make the galaxy itself bend and respond in fear. One quiet cycle, the ship detected an anomaly in the void, a faint signal, almost imperceptible, but definitely artificial. Kale's heart raced. The map pulsed in response, gently, as though recognizing a presence. He adjusted the sensors and focused. The signal intensified, then resolved into a single ship, sleek and elegant, moving silently across the void. Kale froze. He had never seen a human vessel before. It was nothing like the record suggested. Fast, efficient, unarmed by visible weapons, yet emanating an undeniable sense of authority. The ship's hull shimmered faintly, reflecting starlight in a way that seemed unnatural, almost alive. A communication request appeared on the ship's interface. Kale hesitated, then accepted. A calm, measured voice filled the chamber. "Navigator Kale. You have crossed boundaries not meant for observation." Kale swallowed. "Who are you?" The figure appeared on the screen, human, calm, with eyes that seemed to pierce through the emptiness of space. There was no arrogance, no threat. Just a presence that demanded respect. "I am an ambassador of human space," the voice said. "You have seen what few have seen. You have touched the edges of our territory and felt the pulse of the map. Do you understand what that means?" Kale shook his head, words failing him. "You are lucky," the ambassador continued. "Most who come here with curiosity alone do not leave with knowledge. Most disappear." Kale's heart pounded. Why? Why does the galaxy, the maps, react this way? The ambassador's gaze seemed to hold the weight of centuries. Because humans are remembered. The galaxy carries our history in every star, every system, every map. Those who sought to conquer us, who thought us weak, were erased. Entire fleets, entire empires, disappeared when they challenged us. Not because we sought war, but because the universe itself acted to protect us. Kale felt a shiver crawl across his spine. The maps, the AI, they are alive? Yes, the ambassador replied. They remember. They protect. They enforce what history has proven. And the blank space you see is not absence. It is caution, patience, and memory. The galaxy learned to fear what it does not understand, and in fearing humans, it preserves us. Kale's mind spun. But humans are not invaders. We are not gods. We only defend ourselves. The ambassador smiled faintly. That is precisely why the galaxy fears us. We do not conquer. We do not lie. We only survive, and when survival is threatened, the consequences are profound. Empires that underestimated us learned the hard way. And the maps, the AI, the stars themselves, they carry that lesson forward. Kale's hands trembled. So all the stories, the vanishing ships, the warnings, they were real? Yes, the ambassador said. The galaxy itself whispers warnings to those who would trespass, who would threaten. We are not invincible by might, but by the memory of what has been. The maps are alive because they remember. And the memory is patient. Kale sat back, stunned. The void, the pulse beneath his fingers, the warnings from the AI and the smugglers, it all made sense. Humans had changed the galaxy in ways no one dared speak aloud. Entire civilizations had been humbled, erased, or redirected. And now, the universe itself guarded humanity, silently, without malice, but with unwavering caution. The ambassador continued, softer now, almost reflective. Do not mistake this for arrogance. We did not ask for such protection. We only acted to survive, as any species would. But the galaxy learned to remember. It remembers the forgotten war, the courage, the unity, the defiance. And it will act if history repeats. Kale felt a chill run down his spine. The silence of the blank space was no longer empty. It was alive, aware, and patient. It carried the memory of humans and the consequences of challenging them. And Kale, who had touched the edges of that memory, understood at last why no map dared mark human territory. You have seen enough for one lifetime, the ambassador said. Go back. Share what you may, but understand this. The galaxy hides our presence because it fears remembering. And the memory is eternal. Kale nodded, his voice barely a whisper. I understand. As the communication ended, the human ship faded into the void, leaving the silver path in silence. Kale stared at the map. The blank space no longer felt threatening. It was a guardian, a witness, and a memory that stretched across centuries. He realized the truth that no archive, no story, no AI warning could convey fully. Humans were not marked on the maps not because they were insignificant, but because the galaxy had learned the hard lesson. To threaten humans is to invite consequences beyond comprehension. The maps, the stars, the very fabric of reality, all remembered what had been learned long ago. Kale sat in awe, the weight of understanding settling upon him. The void pulsed faintly beneath his fingers, alive with memory, alive with caution, alive with humanity. And he knew, with a chill that both terrified and humbled him, that some truths were meant to be witnessed, not challenged. The galaxy would wait, patient and silent. And so would the humans. Kale understood, finally, why no map dared mark their home. The galaxy remembered what it feared most, and it had never forgotten.